Start now?
Yes, sure.
Right, well, my name is Alberto Cavalli. I was born in London in 1923, 1st of January, and I was brought up really Italian. When I was 3 years old, my father sent me off to Italy because he wanted me to, to keep the Italian side of my nationality. And I stayed there till I was about 8 years old. So my formative years were really Italian. I grew up Italian. And I came back, as I say, when I was about 8 years old. And first thing he did was to send me to a very posh school, Salesian College, Battersea, because he could afford it. He'd already set himself up in business. And I went to Salesian College, Battersea for about it might have been 3 years, because then in 1935 they opened up the Italian day school in London. Now this was a state-run school, and as the state was fascist, it was classed as a fascist school. Although, as far as I can remember, they say did it preach fascism. I don't recall it. We were too busy learning the cultural side of Italy. And the beauty of this school was that everything was taught in Italian, so that with me it was easy, because fresh from Italy, no problem at all with the language. Although other pupils there, they did have some sort of trouble because they were brought up here, and the only Italian part about them was that their parents were Italian, and they were all well-to-do people. In my class, I had the Italian ambassador's son and daughter, Dino Grandi. He was the first ambassador, but then when he got replaced by Bastianini, I had his son and daughter in my class. Now, the classes were small. Maximum was about 15 in the class. That's why we got on very well with our lessons there. The teacher had a lot of time to devote to us, to point out where we were going wrong. And in the end, it became a doddle for us. When you're getting that sort of supervision from these professors, because they were all professors appointed by Rome, and they were not picked up from the local university, but these are real top-notchers. I can remember some names now. The Italian one was Professor Bottini, lovely man. He was Toscano. He spoke with a real Toscano accent, and that's why sometimes I speak like a Toscano, because he taught me a lot of words, and it sort of stays in your head. The maths teacher was the one that was called Professor Forte. He came from Rome. The Latin teacher, now, he had a strange name, Professor Kersovich. I think he must have been from the north somewhere, And what else was there? Oh yeah, and the president, the chief. He was a Milanese, came from Milan. And what an imposing name he had, Magno Cavallo. I mean, big horse. Gracious me. And it was him that he took me under his wing, and he said that as I was so quick at picking up lessons, he was going to make me jump a year, provided I did the studying in the summer. I said, yeah, okay. So he sent me to this priest in the West End, and his name was Father Ciuffoli. Funny how you can remember these names. And we did a crash course for the Seconda Ginnasiale. You see, that's the second year secondary, which I never did at school. I jumped from the first to the third. And so I went on, and every year I passed. And in 1940, when Italy came into war, I just passed the first liceo. Now that's a big step. the liceo consists of 3 classes, first, second and third, which if you pass in them, automatically you go to university. Well, I did the first, passed it, I was ready for the second. And that's when the war broke out with Italy. And this is where my life really begins, you know. But to go back on the previous years, I must point out that the advantage that we boys had of going to Italian school, not only the day school, but the evening classes, was that we would go to Italy every year, always to Cattolica, where there was like a holiday resort, and it was for the children of Italians abroad, not only from London, but all over the place. And we used to go every year. Didn't cost us anything, just a fare. So, as far as we were concerned, those days under fascism for us were quite good. On top of that, we had a massive sports ground at Edgware, where we used to go every Sunday, and you know, cycling, football, gymnastics, anything like that. So, you know, you can't help saying, well, we enjoyed ourselves under fascism. We didn't see any harm in it, but we didn't know what was going on in Italy, though. If anything was going on. I mean, you hear these sort of things, but were they true? Well, however, getting back, finishing, I think there's nothing more I can say. Oh yes, played football. There was 3 football teams there. One was the first 11. They were big fellas, you know, in their 20s. Then there was 2 minor teams. Aquile Azzurre, the Blue Eagles, Sorci Verdi, the Green Mice. I don't know which one I was there. I was one of them. And I was a goalkeeper. But anyway, you know, it was just a sport, messing about like that. Then this war came out. Now, this is where, you know, as I said, the real story of my life begins. Because for the first time in my life, I began to find out the bad things about life, you know. Up to then, everything was rosy. Oh, life was worth living, you know. We enjoyed ourselves immensely. The first thing when Italy came into the war was a lot of Italians got roped in, arrested. My father got picked up, taken in. They came round for me on the 12th, but I wasn't in, I was out. And they said they would be back. And sure enough, they came back for me on the 15th. And because I was of dual nationality, I wasn't classed as an alien, even though I had Italian nationality, but I had British as well. So, the law in those days was that you could not intern a British subject, but you can detain him, which is just a twist of words, really, isn't it? Aliens went straight to internment camps. People like myself were put in prison. Well, you go in, they make a strip, search, have a bath, as if, you know, just in case you've got some disease or something like that. And then they take you to the cell, you know, and lock you in till next morning. And I remember when I woke up, I didn't want to open my eyes. I thought, I'm dreaming. I can't be where I think I am. Opened my eyes though, and I saw these 3 bloody walls and this big iron door in front of us. And I heard the clanging of doors being opened, you know, applications for the governor, slops out and all that, because we had no toilet facilities in the cells. In those days they gave you a pot, you did what you had to do, and you slept with it all night if you were taken short. And when I opened the door, I looked out, see if I could see anybody, and lo and behold, I saw 2 of the boys that I knew very well. Where's all the others? They've just gone to Liverpool the day before. They transferred them to Walton Jail, Liverpool. And that were the lucky ones because they were only in jail for a month and they went straight to Ascot internment camp. Whereas I and all those others that were in there was about 100 of us, Italian, you know, dual nationality. We stayed there till Christmas and then transferred to Ascot camp. In the meanwhile, people were going 2 or 3 at a time to the tribunals and things like that. And I went in, and that was about a month before Christmas. I went to the tribunal and I had Sir Roland Campbell there and 2 other bods. And the usual questions, what are your leanings? Are you Italian or British? Well, that was a bit witty in those days. I said, well, you've made up your mind what I am, that's why I'm here. What would you be prepared to do if we released you? I said, first of all, you release my father, then I'll think about it. Oh, they said, you can't tell us what to do. I said, no. That's it, I said. You've imprisoned my father. Yeah, I said, you interned my father. He's been here since 1920. He's never been back to Italy. He's been a good citizen, paid his taxes and everything else, and yet you interned him. All he wanted to do was work, make a living for himself and us children. That's all right, you can go, and that's all I heard. When I got to Ascot, I still didn't hear anything. I was there for about 6 weeks at Ascot. Must tell you something about Ascot was a converted Bertram Mills circus. And where I was put in the Giraffe House, which was a very tall building. And the refectory, or where we used to eat, was the Elephant House. It was a massive thing, you know. But even there, the hygiene, you did it in pots and took it out next day and things like that. And in that Giraffe House where I was, there must have been about 60 or 70 of us in there, you know, and 3-tiered bunk beds. And anyway, we stayed there for a while. It was bloody cold, innit, because we went there at Christmas time. And then they decided to send us to York internment camp. It was a converted racecourse, York racecourse. Right opposite was this chocolate factory. I don't know whether it's Roundtree's or whatever it was. And I was in the advance party. They sent me up there to get the place ready, you know. And that wasn't too bad. But still the hygiene facilities, you still had, you know, empty, like in a dustbin there. And they used to lock you in at night. So you had that lovely smell with you in case, But at any rate, but one good thing, they had showers there, so you could go and shower every morning at least. There was something. And I remember that me and 2 or 3 others, we thought, well, we just received notice that our detention was going to be continued, so I said, right, I'm beginning to lose my hair, had it all off, you know, shaved off. Because by the time we get out, it will have grown by then. And we was there for about 2 months, I think. Yeah. And then we got transferred to Huyton, Liverpool. Now, Huyton camp was an old estate, not an old estate, quite a new estate, surrounded by barbed wire. Before we were there were some Germans there, because there was a lot of German things on the wall there, you know, Heil Hitler and all that nonsense. And we stayed there for a little while. I saw the air battle over Liverpool. Boy, oh boy, weren't they really dropping some bombs there. And going back to Brixton, I saw the Battle of Britain from my cell. see them, bang, crack, and they even dropped a bomb right on top of the prison gate at Brixton. But they soon shut that up quick, don't worry. Yeah. And anyway, we was there at Highton, Liverpool. I think that was what, 1941? Yeah, very late 1941. Yeah, because I was at York. Yeah, late 1941. And there we stayed there. I can't exactly remember. Till just after Christmas, and they transferred us to the Isle of Man. Now, the Isle of Man, there was the 3 Italian camps, the Onken camp, which was the Palace camp first, Metropole, and Granville, which at Ramsey. Now those camps there, they were all facing England, you know, so it was the warm part of the Isle of Man. Where we went, Peel, facing the Atlantic, and boy, that was a cold camp. That really was cold. And after a while, you know, after a lot of negotiating and things like that, they decided that those of us with dual nationality, Italian nationality, could go and join our fathers or relatives in the Italian camps. Put my name down, and within no time I was with my father, and that was 1942 that I joined him. So for the first 2 years, all I got news from my father was letters, nothing else. I never saw him. But we got there, I got there to the Isle of Man, and as I say, you know, my father's camp, and I soon got settled. As I was still fresh from school, the first thing the priest did when I got there was, good, I'll give you 2 classes of Italian to teach. Right away, just like that. Because surprising the amount of boys there who could not speak a word of Italian, that were born in Italy, had come over to this country when they were babies and had never been back. So they didn't know Italian at all, so I used to teach them. And I enjoyed it there. Then after a while, you know, I thought, well, that's enough. I mean, I'm not a professor. I started them off and that was it. I was talked, as soon as I was fresh from school, into sitting for a matriculation exam, which meant if I passed it, I could go to university any time. Well, I said, all right, not that I had any intention of going to university, because it suddenly dawned on me that you're better off learning a trade of some sort or a profession than just keep on studying like that and probably getting nowhere. So I sat for it, and you had to pick 5 there was 5 subjects. English was compulsory and mathematics was compulsory. Then the other 3 were up to you. So I chose Italian, French, and then I was thinking, what shall I think of the 5th one? And my pet subject, Roman history. Anyway, I had no trouble with the first 4 papers, but the 5th one, the Roman history, I didn't prepare myself at all. I thought I knew enough about that. But the questions they fired at me was useless, so I failed. In those days you had to pass in the 5, not just 4 out of 5, but you had to pass in the whole 5. And so I failed. Still, never mind, it was quite nice going out outside the camp. Apart from that, so life in the camps in the Isle of Man was lovely, really. It was like a holiday camp. I mean, I've got to be fair, mate, we weren't ill-treated. I mean, you know, especially in the Italian camps, they used to take us out for walks with an escort, but unarmed. No rifles, nothing. And they used to divide us in 3 groups, fast walkers, medium walkers, slow walkers. We used to go out walking, lovely. those who wanted to could get jobs outside, you know, working on farms and things like that. And they used to. I didn't. I worked in the office instead, taking down records, people that were coming in, people that were going out. And that's where I got to know a lot of these that had been interned in Canada, because that camp there where I was in with my father was like a transit camp for people who were coming in from abroad to be released. So a lot of those from Canada came to me, and one of those that came and was in our house 50, Isle of Man there, was that Joe Pieri, who wrote that book, The Isle of the Disgraced, didn't he? And then all those who were on the Arandora Star and went to Australia, they came there, they passed through, and I've got all their records at home of those that passed by. And I meant to tell you that at the Palace camp, those 43 Italian survivors who weren't in a fit state to go to Australia and were hospitalised, when they came out of hospital, they were all sent to the Palace camp, and I've got all their names in a book there. Anytime anybody wants them. As a matter of fact, Terry Colby, sure, she loved the book, didn't she? Copied all the names down and everything. And when she did her book, so yeah. And where was we? Yeah, taking out walks.
The walks.
Not only that, we used to go to the cinema once a week. You know, closed to the public. We used to go in, and I think it cost a shilling in those days to go in. You know, went in, lovely. So we weren't ill-treated at all, I must say. You know, like holiday camps. As a matter of fact, a lot of the youngsters, when they got released, they cried. They didn't want to go out. I was taken aback when they said, "You can go." Me? All right.
When was that?
That was the end of February 1944. So I did 44 months inside. Not quite 4 years.
And what was the reason why they let you go?
Well, the Italian War was over. The Italians finished in September 43. Then they started the mass releases. And as I say, it was my turn in 44. How'd you go? Oh, there you are. You're no longer a menace up to a certain point, because although I was not released direct from the Isle of Man, I was taken under escort to Liverpool. There, the police gave me my release papers.
Was this with your father?
Eh?
Was this with your father?
No, not him. You know, he was released. This was the difference between our the two regulations, you know. The aliens, they were released directly from the Isle of Man. People like us of dual nationality, we weren't released until we got to Liverpool, where the police released us. And the conditions of my release, I had a list of about 50 jobs from which I was barred. Oh yeah.
Can you remember any of them?
Oh dear, this cough. It's they were mostly to do with ammunition, places like that, you know. Nothing, you're not to do that. Farming, you can go farming. But I went to, oh dear, I went in a builder's yard.
Let's take a quick break.
Break, yeah. Right. Getting back to my early days in prison, I'd just like to give you a few names of important people that were in prison at that time there. First of all, there was Sir Oswald Mosley. I had the pleasure of being his next door neighbour, if you like. I was in cell number 35 and he was in cell 34. On my left there was a British Army captain. Can't remember his name, that one there. It wasn't Captain Ramsey. But anyway, right opposite me, on the other side, was Admiral Sir Barry Domville, who was the president of the Anglo-German link. His son was there also. And further up, I had a famous British-German doctor, Dr. Bernardi. He was some high up in some hospital somewhere, but he was quite a notable personality. There was also a squadron leader, Findlay. I mean, there were people who they were classed as possibly dangerous because of their German affiliations. Oh, the other one, I mustn't forget, Tiny Lonro. Because I found out afterwards that he was born in India in an internment camp because his parents were German and he was born in the internment camp. Anyway, after that, in the Italian camps, there was quite a few clever people there, professors and things like that. And I'll tell you what I used to do all day long. I think I learnt every card game under the sun. Oh, in the end, I got quite good at it. And I learnt how to play chess. And in that last Italian camp I was in, I got as far as the semi-final in a competition. I got knocked out by the champion, who was a fellow called Pacini, and he came from Shropshire somewhere. But, he killed me in no time. Boom, 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 boom.
What was your charge in prison then?
What was?
What were you charged with?
Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to tell you.
And what were you released with? Just in terms of, that you can't, like you said, you can't just imprison someone. So they came up with the regulation 18B.
Yeah.
But on your charge sheet, what had they written?
Well, the thing now that when I got arrested, they presented me with a sheet. 4 charges. 1, that I was of hostile origin and association. Okay. 2nd, that I took a course in avant-gardisti, for which my enthusiasm was praised. 3rd, I was in possession of a lot of fascist literature. And 4th, I was in possession of a weapon, firearm. So at the tribunal, they ran through it, and I said, well, I can't argue about hostile origin association. Yeah, definitely. Took a course of avant-gardisti. I don't know anything about it. I was an avant-gardist, but I don't remember taking any special course for it. 3rd, in possession of fascist literature. The only literature I had at home in Italian was my school books. If you call them fascist, well, it's up to you. And 4th, I was in possession of a firearm. In those days, it was fashionable for young men to have these air pistols, where you go shooting birds or things like that, That was that dangerous weapons. So, what else could I say?
And then when you were released from the prison, you didn't come out with a criminal record, did you?
No. There was outside our cell, there was your name and unconvicted prisoner. Then they were careful, they put that there, so you weren't convicted at all. But funny, when I came home, I had to go and find a job. And so I went straight to the Labour Exchange. And, oh yes, he gave a name, yes. I said, where have you been then? In the army? I said, no. I said, I've been interned. Oh yeah, what part of Germany was you interned in? I said, who said I was interned in Germany? I was interned here. Oh. Well, what can you do? I said, well, nothing really. I said, I was a student, but I'm looking for work. I've got to live somehow. We'll write to you. So I left. Anyway, I found a job in a builder's yard in no time, painting. And that was it. soon got used to that. But I can't remember exactly the jobs that I was barred from, but they were all important jobs, you know, that you weren't trusted, they wouldn't let you near them. And the other thing I forgot to mention was that I had to report to the police every week, Saturday afternoons, in the afternoon. So I did that for a while, and then the police sergeant, after about 3 or 4 months, he said to me, "What do you keep coming here for?" I said, "Well, it's conditions of my release." He said, "Don't bother about it." So I never bothered anymore.
There wasn't a very formal system then. If somebody's telling you to do one thing and then the sergeant tells you, "No worry, you don't have to come."
Well, that was on the original sheet when I got released, that I had to report to the police. So I did. But then afterwards they said, "No, don't bother."
How do you feel about this whole experience?
Oh, that was the other thing. You see, when I was interviewed on LBC radio about this, they said to me, "Don't you feel bitter about the way you've been treated? Not the way, don't you feel bitter about all this business that you've been inside for 4 years and all this?" "No," I said, "I sort of expected it, because I knew this sort of thing goes on. But what I did not like," I said, "was the 6 months I spent in prison. Now that I considered very unfair. I mean, I wasn't a criminal, I'd done nothing wrong. I mean, and yet I was put in prison just like that, subject to all the rigours of prison life. I mean, locked up some days, 23 hours a day, other days let you out, you know, for a bit longer and things like that. It's not, that was the only thing I didn't like. Once I got to internment camps, it was like, it was a pleasure."
Were you ever compensated for?
No, never. I did, a few years ago, I did try to, I wrote to the Home Office, and you know, I said I'd like to ask for something, because I mean I lost 4 years of my life for no reason at all. How can I go about it? And when they said, "Well, what were you interned on?" I said, "Regulation 18B. "Oh," he says, "all those records have been burnt." I said, "If I gave you my name, wouldn't that..." No, they're all burnt. So there. As a matter of fact, there have been 2 or 3 books written on this 18B thing, but they've all gone out of print and finished. Oh yeah.
And how, I imagine you were quite active within the Italian community before the war.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well, only because I was at school.
What was the feeling then? Just say your dad, was he more active in the Italian community?
No, he didn't take any active part at all. He was just a businessman.
But he socialised with other Italians? And
Not a great lot, because you see, my mother was not in good health. I had a brother who was always sick, so he never left them. He never left them to go out, like, and join my mates, just go to the pub or things like that. Out of the question. He was a very family-minded man.
Because I imagine it was quite, as I say, quite an impact on the Italian community in Britain at the time, the internment,
Oh, yeah.
the Arandora Star.
Well, especially the impact around this area here, I mean, known as Little Italy around here, I mean, they were taking them away wholesale.
Indiscriminately, they were...
Well, let's put it this way, they were at panic stations here, at that time there. They got all these names from, I suppose, that Italian club in Charing Cross Road, the Fascio, or where else could they have got them? Oh yeah, there was a big book out with the names of all the Italians in London, names and addresses. got them out of there. It didn't take them long, because when they raided that place in Charing Cross Road there, which was the headquarters, the fascist headquarters, you found all these names. Because you've got to remember, people joined the fascist party, not because they were fascists, but because it came in handy for them if they wanted something done in Italy. Because I remember that if you went to the Italian consul to have something done, you know, something legal thing done in Italy, the first thing they used to ask you is, have you got a membership card? If you haven't, boy, they made you wait. They eventually did whatever they had to do for you, but they didn't speed it up at all.
So it was an advantage to be part
Yeah, of course it was, yeah, it was a business advantage.
But
And that's why my father, see, even if you wanted to send your children to evening school, you had to be a member of the party. And this, you couldn't say they were all fascists, of course they weren't.
however, there were benefits to be a member of the family. If you wanted to get something done in Italy,
Oh yeah,
like a document or something to do with your property,
yeah,
then you couldn't get that done
oh yeah.
unless you were part of the fascist party.
You could get it done, but they used to speed it up for you. You got priority. That was it.
And kind of like to bring this interview to a close, I suppose, unless there's anything else you'd like to... Is that okay?
That's okay, yeah.
That's grand.